everybody. This is the Kickoff podcast. This is my first one, and I am pulling out my Rolodex and finding my favorite colleagues, looking for three things: knowledge, so people who've accumulated a lot of information about a certain topic, but who also live it, who have the experience, the wisdom that comes from actually putting that knowledge into practice. And then third, that have dedicated their lives to sharing that knowledge. They're teachers, body workers, physical therapists, doctors, people who are therefore not only putting certain practices into their own lives, but offering them to others and then gaining that extra wisdom that comes from seeing how these practices impact the lives of all kinds of people. And the reason that I'm focusing on the practice is that yoga has two aspects. It's the theory, the knowledge, the why we practice, but then it's also the practice. So the two things have to be linked. So my first guest is Jackie Prete, and we met, oh my God, 1990s. A
Something like
long
that,
time
yeah.
ago. Yeah. Um, at that point, I think you already had a substantial career behind you as an aerobics teacher, and we were both studying on to become Anusara yoga teachers under John Friend. And then I learned a few years later that you had taken a deep dive into Ayurveda, which is what we really want to focus. I really would like to focus on today. It's traditional Indian medicine. I'll let you explain a little more, but the yoga off the mat. And then for the last 15 years, you've been carrying the mantle of the Anusara School of Hatha Yoga globally. And I
Mhm.
understand doing, especially this coming year, a lot of travel, Korea, Japan, retreats far and wide. At the end of the episode, I would love if you would leave a contact link for let people know how they can reach you, or if you want to put
Wonderful.
that in the chat now, that's great. Um, so welcome.
Thank
And
you.
I summoned you today for very selfish reasons. It's been a long, hard winter, and I've been writing and teaching some of my own classes focusing on the Ayurvedic principle of the earth element being the dominant element at this time of year, what
Mhm.
that signifies, and how that can help us get through this dark season. So I thought of you. I would love to hear what you're doing in terms of that practice and some practical tools you could share with other people about how your Ayurveda is helping, particularly in this season, but also
Mhm.
in your broader experience. So,
Wonderful. So first of all, really honored to be invited to share, whatever I've learned over the years with my dear friend Lois. And we have go back many years, and it's wonderful to hang out with you and see your growth over the years as well, Lois. It's just stunning. I've been following you. So what I have to share, like I'm not an Ayurvedic practitioner, but I am a health coach, and I've learned this Ayurveda, through a wonderful teacher, Kate Stillman, whose teacher is Dr. Vasant Lad. I got to meet Dr. Lad years ago, and he's brought Ayurveda to the U.S. And if you've seen Banyan Botanicals or you're interested in them, that's all his students. And there's different schools of Ayurveda around the country that have been influenced by Dr. Lad, and you know he tells a story. He couldn't even speak English, and his teacher said, "You're bringing Ayurveda to the West." And I guess he's in his 70s or 80s by now. Anyway, he's just a tremendous teacher, and most of the modern teachers that you're meeting right now are influenced by this wonderful tradition of Ayurveda. And think of the Veda, right? What's the Vedas? These are ancient
mm,
scriptures that come 5,000 years ago. It was a sister methodology of taking care of the body, and it was developed right alongside yoga. So it's 5,000 years old. Now
mm,
there's some practices that are in Ayurveda that we practice sort of a more modern version of Ayurveda. So we're we're living here, not in the subcontinent of India. So we use herbs that are from our locale versus importing all our herbs from India and spices, etc. Now, some of the spices we do get from India, but it's like we really want to eat locally and seasonally. And so one of the practices I do is I belong to a CSA, which is a community supported agriculture or farm. So I have a farm share, and most of the year we get fresh food that is like grown 2 hours outside of New York City, delivered to the city, and you're eating seasonally. You're eating what's locally grown, and eating from the ecosystem that you're living in. So that became very popular, I think, in Italy. The locavore people,
Yes.
the whole tradition,
I've
and
heard.
so it's like now where modern culture is catching up with 5,000-year-old uh, principles, and so that we're incorporating the principles of Ayurveda that really relate to our lives. And so in Ayurveda, there's the doshas, the 5 different elements, and we're in earth water actually season. This is we're coming towards a kapha season, which is late winter into spring and onward. So we're just moving from vata into kapha season. So earth and water. And think of downward moving kind of energy that moves is more heavy, dense, right? So think of the earth, and as it gets more compact, it turns into rock and then coal and then turns into diamonds, right? So there's a compacting energy and a downward moving. So what to do to balance ourselves, everyone, whatever your dosha is in this weather, is keep moving.
Hmm.
Because if we get very sedentary, lie on the sofa, watch the Olympics for hours on end,
Watch other people move.
watch other people move and go, yay. You have to really get your own butt moving. Very important. And the different foods that we choose during different seasons
Can I just
are
ask you
very
about
important.
moving? So, because I understood that in Ayurveda, you just talked about eating locally and what's in season, that to some degree we want to align with the energy of winter.
Mhm.
But then that would imply not moving very much, being still, like being an animal in hibernation. But you're actually advocating that people um, uh, go to balance that, I guess, get actually active, get moving.
Yeah. So like creates more like. So if you're in stagnation season, season where you could fall into stagnation or kapha, and then you become more kapha-like. You sit
Okay.
on the sofa more, and your energy stagnates. So we have to get the vata, the air and ether moving through the body, and more water, fluid, and get the heat going. Certainly, it's cold, right? So we want to stoke the fire. Now we
So
can go
just
too
to also
extreme.
mention, so we've got how many elements? You mentioned them, in
The
passing.
five, yeah,
So I just
yeah,
want to
five elements.
quickly
So
recap.
air, ether, that's space, water, fire, and earth. Right? So all 5 elements. And we want to balance them no matter what season. We are in earth water season, but wherever season we are, we want to make sure like in the height of the depth of winter, it's not a great idea to eat cold ice cream or icy drinks. You want to have warm room temperature to warm tea all winter long. Just keep hydrating with warm water. Actually, all year, warm water is better for your system, because what happens when you have a nice cold icy drink? Your body has to warm that up to its temperature, 98 degrees. So look at all the energy you're wasting by drinking cold drinks. This doesn't make any sense. If you at least room temperature, and your body can warm it up as it is, and it's not going to take an enormous amount of energy. Also, just shuts your digestion. Stop. We got to warm this up before we put it through the system. So, just a simple adjustments like that. And if you're in the summer and you're having alcohol, people love to drink their beer and their drinks in the summer, and you're having lots of caffeine, and you're having hot, spicy foods. Let's eat Mexican food in the summer. It's like gasoline on the fire. You just like, like it's too much heat. So like you want to balance the summer by having more cooling foods like cucumbers and yogurts and fresh fruits, and that's where you're going to the season where you're going to have raw foods. Where in the winter, it's kind of cold. We want to warm our food first before we take it in. So like soups and stews, and also it's there's a dryness to the season here, even though it is sort of moisture more winter. But going from the Vata season into winter, it's you've been dried out all fall and early winter. So now we want to add moisture to the system to keep things moving because you can get clogged up.
Got it.
So those are the
And
ideas about.
would you recommend that, like, if people are feeling really tired, is caffeine okay at this time of year? Like,
Well, that's interesting. Caffeine, it's the up and down. It's great in the morning if you want to have your morning coffee. That's great. I wouldn't have caffeine the rest of the day. Maybe a chai or after lunch or something. Like stop, especially if you have sleep issues, Lois. I don't know if you do. I do.
yeah, yeah.
So I got older after menopause. It's just like try to keep the caffeine. And I love a fake chai called Bengal Spice from Celestial Season. So
I
it feels
remember
like I'm having my chai. And it's all the same spices, and I put a
that.
little milk on there, and that's my afternoon tea if I don't want to keep
Okay.
myself up all night, watching too many Olympics.
And as far as you mentioned air, what about fiery practices? Like if someone does Ashtanga yoga, something like that, one of the really athletic heat building yoga practices, or even like Bikram yoga, hot yoga, are those recommended to do throughout the winter?
You can do warming practices, like we don't necessarily need to heat up a room to get your body warm. You can do a room that's comfortable or a little bit warm, but to do those extreme heat, it's very depleting for the system.
Mhm.
I'm not a big fan of the hot yoga. I know people love it, but if you're going to do it, that would be the season to do it. I would not do it in the summer because
Okay,
again, gasoline on the fire.
got it, got it.
And, depending on your dosha. So if you're Lois, like you and I are Vata, doing those very hot, heating, very rigorous practices will deplete us, especially since we're also in Vata time of life, which is postmenopausal for us
So,
women,
yeah,
for
again, just
guys. Yeah.
back up for a moment. So people who are not familiar with, you mentioned the elements, and then you're talking about our individual. So there are seasonal things that apply to everybody, but then individuals have different needs. Can you just break that down
Yes,
for
definitely. Well, so you will, if you want to go to Banyan, Bayan botanicals.com, there's a dosha quiz. And
okay.
of course, they're going to send you all kinds of promotions to buy their products. But anyway, you can just unsubscribe afterwards, but it'll tell you I'm a Vata Pitta, I'm a a Vata. And usually we're combinations. Very few people are tridoshic. You could be all three. And that's ideally what we
And
want.
just to
But
summarize the three, I don't want to do a whole thing on Ayurveda today, but there are three
mhm.
different energies.
Yeah, constitutional types.
That's the
Like
word.
that's your you were born with that. You can't really change that.
Okay.
So, but another aspect of could be you could be a vata with a pitta imbalance. You could be a kapha with a vata imbalance. So so the earth water is kapha, vata is air ether, and pitta is fire, and water is with it's a
So
combination.
people are dominated by elements just like seasons.
Correct. And
Yeah.
there's different times of your life. There's also different times of your day that are
Mm,
associated with the elements, which is interesting. So
okay. So,
right now we're in pitta time.
okay.
Fire. Go ahead and have some
The
food.
day. Yeah. Yeah, the hot, yeah, the peak of almost to noon, right? Yeah.
So
So
all the way till two, actually. It's from 10 to 2. Go ahead.
so depending on whether you have more air element or more water element or more fire, then it's not just we should all do the same things in winter, but someone who has a lot of air, like you just mentioned, you and I have a lot of the air element, the vata, we're going to have a different prescription because we, in fact, might need to be slowed down a little bit or grounded even in the winter.
Absolutely. We need grounding. Absolutely. So for the vata, you're still going to want to have the warming foods, especially you anyway.
Yeah.
For there's nuances about the constitution, but in general, all three doshas, I'm going to just give you general stuff. So
Not very helpful.
knowing that a practitioner, or if you want to study Ayurveda, I'd love to talk to you some more. I have a year-long program that we study Ayurveda for a full year and
Ask you.
dive into your doshas.
Mhm.
Love to talk to you. Just even a conversation will get a lot cleared up about that. So that is a free gift I'm giving anybody who comes and sees this,
Yeah, I
by the way.
did want to ask you about your programs and how you would guide people through this. So, yeah, so again, if we can put some links in the chat and just get everybody on board with that. And I also, if anybody is watching this and doesn't see the chat later for the recording, I can provide Jackie's contact information.
Thank
But yeah,
you.
I guess that was it. That what do we do now? So it would be ideal if people had a big picture framework. You've already mentioned they can go to Banyan Botanicals and figure out what their dosha is. But given that we're all in this winter state for at least another few weeks, I'm
Oh
so
yeah.
happy to see the sun is changing a little bit. It's starting like spring. Just some basics like yeah, general tips
Okay.
you would give people.
Absolutely. And these are like the 10 habits that I teach in the Vibrant Living Tribe, which is
Yes, explain
what
that.
I'm working on. Yeah. So the Vibrant Living Tribe is a group of, like an intergenerational group of people, men and women, and we're interested in becoming super agers. That's is how do we just use the information of yoga, of meditation, pranayama, all the practices that we love. Your audience has got a bunch of yogis in it, and
Hmm.
also take the yoga off the mat. How do you feed yourself? How do you get the best quality of rest? How to manage your mind as you get older? Do you have the brain fog? Are you getting memory loss? Are you, showing up late to appointments?
Yeah, those weird little synapse lapses. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. We just had one this morning.
Yeah, I've done
So
that.
anyway, but how to be on top of how your body ages and to be proactive about it. People. I always say it's likening a person who wants to do the marathon waiting until the day before to train. We have to train every single day. Lois is one of the most disciplined yoga teachers I know in the world. This girl doesn't go a day without practice. I do. I have a day off, but she's just to that kind. I call it investing in your health account.
Hmm.
You invest in your 401k, but you'll take yoga class once a week. That's my
Hmm.
investment. No, no,
Hmm.
no, no, no. Every day, what do we do? So there's certain routines that go along with what we call the Dina Charya. Charya is teacher, right? The daily rhythm. And there's certain times of day you should be meditating or doing some kind of tai chi, doing something connecting you to the universe. Could be a walk on the beach for Lois. She loves to go out walking on the beach in the morning. Something where you see the sunshine. You could be doing some breathing. You can do a pranayama practice. Something in the morning that connects you to something greater.
Hmm.
And those people who like to sleep in past the sunrise and then get up late in the morning, you've lost out on that beautiful
Hmm.
air time, vata time. That's when consciousness expands. If
Okay.
you go to an ashram or a monastery, they're
Yeah,
getting up at 4 o'clock doing their practice,
yeah.
right? And then they have a light breakfast, and we have a light breakfast after we get up and move the body and do our meditation practice, our breathing practices, our self massage, all the different practices we do in the morning. And then we pick this up. Don't pick this up first.
Yes.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Freaking
But
out.
that
That's the
tightens
first
the
thing.
consciousness, right? That pulls you
Right.
into, yeah, limited thinking. Yeah.
So yeah, you want to think in terms of moving into this liminal space, right? As you wake up, you're in that beautiful transition between sleeping and waking.
Mhm.
That's when you want to capture your attention.
Mhm.
Sitting even for 5 minutes.
Mhm.
I get the insight timer. It has a beautiful bong. You
Mhm.
can do 5 minutes. We're at least 20 minutes, 15, but you want to build yourself up to it. I always say Kaizen approach, baby steps. You start meditating 5 to 10 minutes.
And
We do that in go
does
ahead.
your well, with all these 10 steps, does your meditation change seasonally? Is there a different kind of intention in the winter?
Oh, that's so interesting. Just like when I'm teaching an Anusara class, there might be, a seasonal theme that I'm working on, maybe grounding as a Vata person, or feeling the earth and really, like when I'm doing my self guidance or I'm guiding people, I guide a free meditation every Thursday morning. By the way,
Okay,
I'll
good.
give you that information
Yeah.
too. Come online with me and I'll guide you through it. And there's a template that we use. And so what in different seasons you may want to do some kind of cooling practice or a cooling pranayama practice before you go into meditation. So that's how it, focuses like that. And the practices might change. You're in the heat of summer, you're going to do more of a cooling practice. Then you're going to do your get up and do like a really
Full
intense
time.
Ashtanga practice, right? I'm going to hold your handstand for 5 minutes. No, you're not going to
Yeah.
do something more calming. And in the winter, you want to get the fire going because, so that'll be a little more vigorous. So yeah, we choose practices that fit the season. So there's a daily rhythm,
Hmm.
when you should meditate, when you should have food, when you should fast. We call it intermittent fasting or rhythmic eating.
Okay.
And between meals, I used to be the grazer that grazed on food all day long.
Yep.
The
Yep.
worst thing you can do for your digestion. If you want to really accumulate a lot of what we call toxins in the system, keep eating all day long and don't let your body digest or
Interesting.
rest. You
Yep.
want the digestion to rest between meals.
Yep.
So we have herbal teas or water between meals. And also, don't drown yourself. This idea of chugging water, you can really screw up your kidneys.
Okay.
You want to have a nice flush in the morning, first thing up, hydrate, get the body moving, get the bowels moving.
Yep.
Ideally, I always was walking around partially constipated my whole life. And then I realized they recommend 18 inches of fecal matter out of your body before you have your first meal.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
a lot of poop, So, how do you get that moving?
Yep.
These practices, moving your body, pranayama, like this is my breakfast. It's a green smoothie. It's
Okay.
got the fiber in it. I
Hmm.
blended in the Vitamix, vegetables, fruit, and water.
Yeah.
No, not milks, no powders and cream. It's just like food, real food. And
Yeah.
then I'll have my lunch around between 12 and 2,
Hmm.
and really generous lunch like what they would have in the agrarian times, like a big lunch, what you would usually have for dinner. And then we have a lighter dinner. That's because the energy of digestion is getting lower as the sun sets.
Okay.
So the later you eat, the more clogged up you get.
And I'm thinking when you're talking about this, you're really talking about routines. And all of the energies, all the elements, they're neither bad nor good. They have different qualities, right? So one of the positive qualities about, or one of the skillful qualities of Earth is routine, is steadiness and constancy, right? So people have too much air, like the two of us, like we love variety and change, but you're really saying set a routine, and that can stabilize the whole system. Yeah.
Your nervous system will shift. You can regulate your nervous system by, like how you would have a child or a dog, a pet. What would you do? You would have same waking time, same meal time, same when do they have their walks and their exercise. You would put yourself on a schedule like you would your animal or your child. Same bedtime. If they don't, they get really cranky. You keep
Yep.
them up too late,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
They're crying, they're obnoxious, right?
Yeah, this is all good stuff. I'm thinking that there are a few things when I was talking about moving in contrast, I don't want to say opposition, but against the grain of the earth. I've always found it puzzling that at the darkest time of year, around the winter solstice, we go into holiday mode where we
Yeah.
disrupt everybody's routines. We require people to be more social, and there's a lot of travel that happens. And
Alcohol, sugar, you name it, all the stuff
yeah,
that
and
throws us way out. Woohoo!
exactly. So we're a little, the holidays are behind us, but looking forward to next year. How do you advise your students, and how do you yourself moderate the fact that you might actually have to travel? You want to be with family and they live in California or whatever. It's going to disrupt your routines. It's a different climate, it's a different time zone, all that. Like little tools for staying more stable and grounded during all that.
Awesome. We do seasonal cleanses, by the way. I do one in the fall and one in the spring because, we've had stagnation throughout. We just accumulate toxins, get real enthusiastic, and then we're slipping a little bit. And here comes the holidays. So I always do like a little reset right after the holidays, as a cleanse. So that's one thing I do. So I'm not asking people for perfection around the holidays. Please enjoy your holidays. I'm Italian. I'm going to eat some pasta. I'm going to have some wine. I'm going to have a nice
Yeah.
Italian cookie. I'm going to enjoy that. But it's going to be what I've seen over the years for both Thanksgiving and the two overindulgent holidays is by doing the practices. I know I'm going to overindulge on those days. I don't go back for seconds. I'm not getting three desserts. I'm, just like I'm, because I know the impact what I'm going to feel like the next
Yeah.
day.
Yes. Yes.
And so I can moderate myself. I'm going to say, I'm going to make clever choices. Now, travel is always
Yeah.
a challenge for us. So when you arrive, hydration, 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 get your water going, have
Yeah.
your hydration on the plane. When you get there, if you're at a different time zone, wake up in the morning no matter what and get your first light of the day on your eyes. So your serotonin and melatonin will get reset.
Mm.
Exercise during the day. Try to get on the time zone that you're in, even if it means you're up too much. You're not getting the right sleep. Try to recalibrate. Maybe take a little nap in the afternoon, not too long, and then try to stay up as late as you can. 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. I remember when I go to Europe or I go to Asia. Oh my gosh, it's so
Hard. Yeah.
crazy. You know
So
what
hard.
that's like? Yeah. So you have to try to stay in their rhythm,
Yes.
and then don't overeat, especially on the planes. Try to eat minimally, like maybe grab a green smoothie on the way, or you have to eat. There's two, especially those long flights.
Yeah.
But try to eat more foods that's easier to digest, not like a sandwich or a piece of meat. If you can do veggie,
Yes. Yeah.
that, or bring with you, some soup or something like that, or like a miso soup or something like that, or
And your
some,
practice, I've found that if I can do even the shell of my practice, something
oh
that's
yeah,
familiar, that helps. But I
absolutely.
remember also I was advised hip openers because they're grounding. And I remember when we were working with John Friend, he would often have us do back bends because he thought the thigh stretching was really important for helping to get the thigh bones into the hip socket, which is also
Hmm.
calming. Have you
Hmm.
had any, do you have any particular winter slash travel practice tips?
Just to travel tips, like if on in the plane itself, like I'm not the greatest sleeper, and I don't take drugs to go to sleep on the plane. I will sometimes get the aisle seat because I want to get up. I can go in the back, and I'm waiting in line for the.
Yes,
Do some
and
stretches.
yes.
Do some stretches in your seat. To see if you don't have the money to do business class, then you're fine. But most of us don't. And then when you arrive, go near soil.
Uh,
So if you can go barefoot, you can't do this in the winter, barefoot in the grass. If
mm,
there's a park nearby,
yes.
just like smell the get your hands in soil.
Well,
Just like
yeah. I was gonna say I go back and forth between New York City and East Hampton, and New York
mhm.
City is a very fiery and airy environment, and I get unplugged very easily. And then I come out here where it's the soft earth, the farmland, and the water everywhere. It's very
Oh yeah,
earthy, watery, and I feel my nervous system just go, "Thank you,
yeah,
thank you." Right? And even
absolutely.
even when there's snow on the ground and stuff, I will go out and just walk just to
Yeah, yeah.
had the earth.
Walking, yeah, walking in nature, great. I'm very fortunate. I live near Riverside Park. We
Yeah.
call it our backyard, our estate. We're going
It's
to go walk the estate now,
exactly.
and so we walk over to Riverside Park, and just hanging out and
Yeah.
petting the dogs. If you, I think
Yep. Yep.
dogs are really good for your microbiome, by the way.
No, but that's really helpful to talk about this because a lot of my listeners are urbanites. And yeah, when they opened up the Hudson River Park down where I live in Lower Manhattan, I would even before the park was there, I would just go out and look at the water, look at the river, and just
Yeah.
itself was calming, right? You get away from all the concrete, all the noise. In New York, I always joke, but when you look through the grates on the sidewalks, you just see air underneath you. It's like there's no ground down there, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
very
yeah,
unsettling. So to go
yeah.
someplace where there actually is, something stable underneath you, or at least like the vision of water, or Central Park, of course, or Riverside, someplace where you can actually touch the earth even better. I'm
Oh, and Lois, I don't know if you've done any of these reading on these trees, right? The trees actually emit chemicals
Mhm.
that help to calm your nervous system, if you believe
Oh,
it or not. Now, I
wonderful.
don't know in dormant season they do this, but
Yeah.
definitely in the summer, their relationship with trees is so important to us. I have some elders in Riverside Park we go hang out with. We
Oh,
ask them for support,
oh,
like they've been around longer than us. How
Yeah.
are we going to get through this crazy mess? Don't worry, stay the course. You have dialogue with the tree. I know
Oh,
I'm a little woo
beautiful.
woo anyway.
Well, this has been super helpful. I know that we should probably wrap up now. But if you can maybe just mention a couple of the things, well, any remaining tips, things we haven't covered, and then the best way for people to reach you if they would like to pursue the
Absolutely.
program we've talked about.
Wonderful. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to talk to your peeps. And I hope, if people get curious about Ayurveda and how they can incorporate it. I have different levels of programming. Sometimes you just want to do the cleanse. Let me just check out that cleanse. It's coming up in April.
Okay.
It's a couple weeks and, we eat, we don't starve. And
Okay.
so you can join us for the cleanse. And then if you like it and you go, hey, I really want to do this all year long, I'll use that deposit on your cleanse, right, for the deposit for the year-long
Oh,
course. And it's a great way of, when you have a group of people together who are like-minded, because let's face it, we're doing something that's counterculture, isn't it, Lois? It's
yep.
like most people eat dinner at 9 o'clock at night.
Yep. Yep.
So if one of the little tips is take your dinner time up a half an hour.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if it's now at 8 o'clock,
Yeah.
7:30. We're
Yeah.
doing intermittent fasting. Close the kitchen by 6:37.
Mhm.
Start counting your hours, and
Mhm.
we'll talk about in the cleanse itself what kind of intermittent fasting is good for Lois versus my partner who's kapha versus the athlete who is the
Good
pitta
girl.
person. How many hours of fasting are the best for you? So that's what we'll do. And yeah. So you can reach me through my website, which is either Jacqueline, Jacalyn, Prete.com, which I left in the chat,
Great.
or you can even do JackiePrete.com and you'll find me.
Great.
And set up a one-on-one session with me. If you go to the health coaching page, it has a link that you can sign up for a one-on-one free consultation,
Lovely.
30, 40 minutes, and we'll sit down together and we'll talk about your dosha and we'll talk about how the program of the Vibrant Living Tribe can be a real game changer for people. I've seen people with weight issues drop weight, people with no weight issues people like Lois come to take my course because they have sleep issues or, they're
There's
maybe a
always
woman's
something.
going, yeah, menopause or perimenopause, or they want to get their mojo back,
Yeah.
or they're, worried about the diseases of their ancestors taking hold of them as they get older, Alzheimer's,
Yeah.
cancer, etc. So we, yeah, we work on individualizing this year-long
So
program
important.
for each
Yeah, so
person.
important because even like I remember trying to sort of self-diagnose with Ayurvedic books a while ago, several years, a couple decades ago, and getting a little overwhelmed, because there's general instructions and then there's individual, but it's very hard to self-prescribe. So having guidance, I think, is really helpful. Like you teach others, you have a teacher, right? And then also you mentioned we do this in community, which I think is also, the beginning of the Yoga Sutras. It says now we come to study yoga together, right? I
Mm.
do this alone because yes, we're working against the societal norms, but we're also working against the power of our own habits, which are very tenacious. So making it change, having I hate this word, but accountability,
Yes,
but
ma'am, it
maybe
is.
just to give it as support, right? That other people are struggling too, and you can come together and share what's working and what's not. So, I just want to say, Jackie, that's also something and maybe in closing, that I've so respected and admired in you over the years is your ability to create community,
Hmm.
which is
Thank
really
you.
a special gift. And I think it was
Thank
the
you.
first time you ever took a bunch of your Equinox students to brunch for your birthday. And it created this thing that just then, had its own momentum of a whole collection of people who otherwise would have just gone back to the locker room, changed, and gotten out of there. So hats off to you for that and
Okay.
just for being you. And yeah, we will do a follow-up separate segment whenever about the recovery from your accident, because that's a whole power
Mm.
of example that I really would like people to hear about. So just a little teaser for those of you who are listening that Jackie's got another whole story to tell.
Oh,
So much for joining us. I will be posting this up. I'll get it to you as well. And I guess if anybody has questions, they've now got your contact information or they can also reach out to me. So thank you so much.
thank you, Lois. So great hanging today.
Yeah, you too.